Have you ever felt like life is a constant battle, where moments of joy are just brief pauses before the next fall? Arthur Schopenhauer, one of history's darkest philosophers, believed exactly that. For him, life is not a fairy tale. Ignoring this reality only makes us more vulnerable. His writings remain relevant today because they challenge our illusion of happiness and force us to see the world. But far from being mere pessimism, his reflections offer something valuable: the understanding needed to confront the harsh reality of existence. In this video, we will explore 9 brutal reflections from Schopenhauer that could change your perspective on life. Some may seem harsh, but all contain essential truths for anyone seeking to find meaning amid chaos. Suffering is inevitable. Most people spend their entire lives trying to avoid suffering. We seek comfort, we seek pleasure, and we flee from pain whenever we can. But for Schopenhauer, this attempt is futile because suffering is not an accident of life. It is the very essence of existence. According to him, nature created us to constantly struggle. If we aren't fighting against illness, we are facing frustration, disappointment, and loss. And even when everything seems to be going well, anxiety about the future or memories of the past torment us. This is because life is an endless cycle of desire and frustration. Schopenhauer said that as long as we are alive, we will always be missing something. If we are sick, we want health. If we are healthy, we want money. If we have money, we want love. If we have love, we want freedom. And so we go on, unsatisfied, driven by a desire that can never be fully met. So what can we do in the face of this reality? Acceptance does not mean resigning ourselves to pain, but understanding that it is inevitable and stopping living in the illusion that someday everything will be perfect. The sooner we grasp this truth, the less we will suffer from unrealistic expectations. Desire is a trap. Have you noticed that we are always chasing something? Money, success, love, recognition. It seems that when we finally get what we want, happiness arrives at last. But Schopenhauer warns us. For him, desire is like a flame that never goes out. When we reach a goal, we feel a brief sensation of satisfaction. But then, we are consumed by a new desire. This endless cycle keeps us eternally unsatisfied. Worse still, the more we desire, the more we suffer. Imagine someone who dreams of becoming rich. They believe that having money will bring them peace. However, when they finally achieve their fortune, they discover that they still feel empty. Now they want more. They want status. They want power. They want something they don't yet have. And so, their happiness never arrives. Schopenhauer called this the cycle of desire, where life consists of wanting, striving, conquering, and ultimately feeling unsatisfied yet. True freedom does not lie in having everything one wants, but in learning to want less. Happiness is a fleeting illusion. We live in a society obsessed with happiness. Books, courses, gurus, all promise formulas for achieving a state of permanent joy. But Schopenhauer shatters this illusion with a brutal truth. Happiness, when it occurs, is merely a pause between two sufferings. For him, life is marked by constant pain, worries, losses, illnesses, and frustrations. When we have a moment of joy, it soon disappears, and we feel consumed again by dissatisfaction or the fear of losing what we have. Schopenhauer employs an interesting metaphor. Happiness is like a soap bubble. It seems beautiful and perfect for a moment, but quickly bursts, leaving nothing but emptiness. The problem is not in feeling pleasure or seeking happy moments, but in believing that we can live in this state. Always, when we accept that happiness is brief, we stop feeling frustrated by its absence and start to value the small moments that truly matter. Solitude is the path of the intelligent man. Most people fear solitude. Being alone is seen as a sign of social failure, as if it means something is wrong with you. But Schopenhauer thought exactly the opposite. For him, the more intelligent a man is, the more he values solitude. This is because most social interaction is superficial, filled with vanity, envy, and empty chatter. I believe that those who seek truth and self-knowledge inevitably drift away from the crowd. After all, It is in silence that we can reflect on life, develop ideas, and truly become masters of ourselves. However, Schopenhauer did not advocate for absolute isolation. He understood that we cherish certain relationships. Nonetheless, he warned that relying too much on people can lead to disappointment. Human nature is selfish, and we often expect more from others than they can give us. Thus, he argued that true peace comes when we learn to appreciate our own company. Being able to be alone without the constant need for validation from others is a sign of strength and maturity. Love is nothing but a deception of nature. From a young age, we are taught to see love as something sublime, a force that gives meaning to life. Movies, songs, and books reinforce the idea that finding a soulmate is the key to happiness. But Schopenhauer shatters this illusion with a brutal thesis. Love is just a biological trick of nature to ensure the propagation of the species. For him, what we call love is merely an irrational impulse, an illusion created by our instincts. We do not seek a partner because we want companionship or emotional connection. We seek one because we are programmed to do so. The intense desire we feel at the beginning of a relationship fades once the biological function of love is fulfilled. That's why so many people suffer in love. They believe this feeling is eternal, but over time, passion wanes and reality sets in. The partner who once seemed perfect now has annoying flaws, and what once brought happiness can become a burden. Schopenhauer said that if we want to avoid unnecessary suffering, we must approach love with more rationality and less fantasy. This does not mean denying love, but understanding its true nature to avoid falling into the trap of unrealistic expectations. Money cannot buy true satisfaction. Many people believe that money is the answer to all their problems. Society teaches us that the more wealth we accumulate, the happier we will be. But Schopenhauer warns us, money can alleviate some sufferings, but it will never bring lasting satisfaction. For him, the relentless pursuit of wealth is nothing more than another manifestation of the cycle of desire. The poor dream of being rich. The rich want to be richer, and those who have it all still feel like something is missing. This is because money can buy comfort, but it cannot fill the existential void. Furthermore, Schopenhauer viewed wealth as a risk to freedom. The more possessions we accumulate, the more we become slaves to them. The fear of losing what we have can be as tormenting as poverty itself. He believed that true peace does not come from having a lot of money, but from wanting little. Does this mean that money has no value? No. Schopenhauer acknowledged that it is necessary for a decent life, but he warned that the obsessive quest for it can turn us into eternal dissatisfied beings. The key is not in accumulating wealth, but in learning to live with less and valuing what truly matters. Art and philosophy as refuge. If life is suffering, is there any way to find relief? For Schopenhauer, yes. He believed that art and philosophy are the only refuges against the pain of existence. Most of the time, we are caught in the endless cycle of desire. We want something, we struggle to obtain it, and when we finally achieve it, we immediately want something else. However, when we appreciate a work of art, listen to deep music, or reflect on philosophical questions, we are able, if only for a brief moment, to escape this cycle and simply contemplate reality. Schopenhauer saw music as the purest form of art. For him, music not only imitates life, but connects us directly with the deepest emotions of existence. When we listen to a melody that moves us, we feel a momentary relief from the chaos of life. Similarly, philosophy helps us to see the world more clearly. Instead of being victims of our impulses, we come to understand better the nature of existence and ourselves. Does this mean that art and philosophy eliminate suffering? No, but they allow us to endure it with more dignity. They are small windows into a higher state of consciousness, where we can, even if temporarily, escape from the misery of life. The world is a hostile place. We believe that people are essentially good, and that the world rewards those who do the right thing. But Schopenhauer warns us, human nature is selfish, and the world is a hostile place where goodness is rarely recognized. He maintained that, at heart, Every individual only cares about themselves. No matter how generous the gestures may be, most human relationships are driven by self-interest. One person's success often means another's defeat. Life is a constant struggle, and society operates like a big competition where the smartest and strongest have the advantage. Does this mean we should become cynical and distrust everyone? Not necessarily. Schopenhauer believed that accepting this reality helps us avoid unnecessary suffering. Expecting too much from others is a sure road to disappointment. The sooner we understand that not everyone is trustworthy, the more protected we will be against betrayal and false promises. That's why, according to him, we should cultivate prudence and emotional independence. This doesn't mean isolating ourselves completely, but rather being aware that no one but ourselves is responsible for our well-being. How do we live in a miserable world? If suffering is inevitable, desires imprison us, love is an illusion, and the world is hostile, then how should we live? Following Schopenhauer's logic, the answer is simple, yet hard to accept. We must abandon our illusions and find a path of resignation and wisdom. For him, the first thing we need to do is reduce our expectations. The less we expect from life and from people, the less we suffer. This doesn't mean giving up, but rather stopping the belief that there is a magic formula for happiness. Another crucial point is practicing emotional detachment. Don't get carried away by blind passions, the incessant pursuit of pleasure, or the fear of suffering. The more we detach ourselves from the ups and downs of life, the more we find a kind of inner peace. Additionally, Schopenhauer saw contemplation, art, and philosophy as a refuge from despair. When we stop fighting against reality and start to understand it, we become less vulnerable to its traps. Ultimately, I believed that the best way to live was with a wise and solitary spirit, accepting pain without letting it consume you, viewing life as a game where the only true victory is serenity in the face of the inevitable. After everything we have witnessed, an inevitable question may arise. What should we do with these reflections? If life is suffering, desire is a trap, love is an illusion, and the world is hostile, what is the point of continuing to fight? The first answer Schopenhauer gives us is harsh but liberating. Stop living in an illusion. Much of our suffering comes from unrealistic expectations about life, people, and ourselves. We expect the world to be perfect, that love will be eternal, and that happiness will be constant. But when we set aside these illusions, something curious happens. We better prepare ourselves to face reality. Imagine someone who always expects recognition and gratitude from others. This person is always giving of themselves, always helping, but deep down feels frustrated because others don't respond as they hope. Now imagine that same person, understanding that human beings are, by nature, selfish, and that most relationships are based on self-interest. Does this mean they have to become cold and bitter? No, it simply means they stop expecting the impossible, and as a result, they stop being so disappointed. Another example. Many people live in search of eternal happiness, believing that one day they will find a stage in life where everything will be resolved. But that phase never comes. There's always a problem, a frustration, a new goal to achieve. When we understand that happiness is just a brief interval between moments of suffering, we stop wasting energy chasing something unattainable and begin to value the small moments of peace and satisfaction that arise along the way. How do we escape this trap? Schopenhauer teaches us that we will never be completely satisfied, and that the key to a less turbulent life isn't having everything we want, but wanting less. Instead of chasing every impulse, we can train our minds to seek what truly has value and brings us serenity. And love, if it's just a biological trick, does that mean we should reject it? Not necessarily. It simply means we need to see love for what it truly is, without fantasies. The intense passion that consumes us at the start of a relationship doesn't last forever, and that's natural. Instead of deceiving ourselves with the idea of perfect and eternal love, we can learn to build more realistic relationships based on respect and collaboration, rather than just the initial euphoria. Loneliness, which so many fear, can be a great ally. How many times have you felt alone in a crowd? How many times have you had to pretend to be someone you're not to fit in? For Schopenhauer, the more intelligent and reflective a man is, the further he distances himself from the mediocrity of the world. This doesn't mean living in isolation, but rather learning to appreciate one's own company, seeking wisdom in silence, and avoiding dependence on others for feeling good. Art and philosophy, which he considered the only real refuges, are tools anyone can use. When we read a great book, listen to music that moves us, or contemplate deep ideas, we can escape, if only for a brief moment, from the misery of life. These small moments of contemplation are what allow us to bear the weight of existence. And in the end, what do we have left? Serenity. Not utopian happiness, nor infinite wealth, nor idealized love, but the ability to see the world as it is and move forward without despair, without destructive illusions. Life can be tough, but that doesn't mean it's without value. When we stop fleeing from pain and learn to accept it, we find a different kind of freedom. A freedom that doesn't come from the illusion of control, but from the deep understanding that the only thing we can truly master is our own mind. And now I ask you, how do you see your life after these reflections? It may be that some of your suffering comes from the expectations you've set for yourself. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Share this video with someone who needs to hear these truths. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, do so now to see more reflections like this.